announcement to pitch in his lot with the Golden State Warriors. And obviously we know how well that worked out. Give me a stat on Durant that sort of sums up his impact in the league.
How about 0? That's the number of Warriors that were first team All NBA this season. They won 67 games and may have had the greatest season ever. If they won that one game against the Cavs, they could have had the best season ever and didn't have a single guy on first team All NBA. You can talk about how stacked the Warriors were. Kevin Durant, when he left and had a knee injury, they went 14 games in a row without losing. So in terms of a stat on KD, I think it's just the whole picture is how stacked the Warriors are. And that decision, he was so validated by going to Golden State because they breezed through the playoffs. And then it's exactly what he wanted. He didn't want to be second place anymore. He didn't want to be second to LeBron. And finally, he got the finals MVP. And he scored 30 points in every single game of the finals, one of 6 players to do that in NBA history.
Absolutely stood up to the moment. And he was sensational down the stretch for the Warriors, who were sensational all year. Tom Haberstroh, our NBA guy, talking us through that. Meanwhile, it's been 1 year, as I mentioned, since Durant joined up with the Warriors, much to the chagrin of the people in Oklahoma City, including this one young fan. Check this out.
Hey, Miles. Kevin Durant's not going to be on the Thunder anymore.
Why?
He signed with another team.
He's going to play with Golden State. Do you like Golden State?
No.
No. You hate Golden State?
Yes.
Yes, me too.
I hate him. I'd punch him in the face.
By the way, most NBA teams and players felt the same way that kid did when he found that out.
The parenting there to take video of your
parenting.
Little boy's heart. And let's get this up. This is going to be great. It actually was very entertaining. I hope the tot is over it by now and he's moved on with his life. All right. Summer League action in Salt Lake City. Sixers and Celtics. Markelle Fultz, the #1 overall pick, and Jason Tatum, the 3rd overall pick. And there's Tatum, who had 21 in this game, getting up and throwing down. There's Danny Ainge looking up. Is he imagining banners now that he's got Jason Tatum? I don't know. Maybe.
It says it there.
Yeah,
2018.
It's kind of scrawled and scratched out, but yeah, he does appear to be imagining banners there in Salt Lake. A little bit later, Markelle Fultz.
Got him.
Mm-hmm. And look at Kevin Durant. Fultz got some poop emoji with him.
That's right.
Pull-up Jimbo was smooth. Probably don't know. What does that mean, Carrie? Can you translate?
That's when you hesitate. You know the hesitation. You know about it.
The hezzy pull-up Jimbo?
Yeah, you know about it.
Here's Joel Embiid reacting.
I don't know if that's really Jim
kooky highlight here. This is a holiday highlight here. Jason Tatum. Clutch. Rounds it home with under 6 seconds to go. It drew the play up for Tatum, who complied, knocks that down.
With the LeBron? Is that the LeBron?
I just try to get back, to my sweet spot, mid-range, and, say a prayer and win in.
All right, so they got to go to Fultz to come back. He goes reverse, and there is Jaylen Brown for the rejection. Fultz had 17, but he needed 19. Celtics win 89-88, your final.
Yeah, I'm excited about this class, guys. What about the hezzy? You know about the hezzy, right? Antonio, was that right? He's talking about the hesitation, right? The hezzy.
The hezzy from the others. I know it from the other end, watching somebody do it, being scared what they're about to do to me. Yeah, I know it from that point of view.
You know about the hezzy. Yes. Our NBA analysts, Antonio Davis and Tom Penn, front office guy, join us now. Let's talk about these rookies. Jason Tatum, Markelle Fultz going head-to-head. We saw that. That was great. Summer League debuts. Tom, I'll start with you first. How much do these Summer League games matter?
I say they matter. When you draft this high and there's this much pressure on these players, when you're the front office guy sitting there validating your pick with your head coach sitting next to you, it matters, right? How they perform. I guarantee you Danny Ainge feels better today than he would if he played worse. And he's focused on free agency and Gordon Hayward. But when Tatum takes it to the rim and pounds it and then hits a clutch jumper to win the game, he is smiling inside. His coach is happy, and everybody else is seeing this. Okay, maybe the kid's got something. So I think it really does matter in these micro steps to just build confidence for these young players.
It's interesting, Antonio. As I know, you're talking to players in the league and people who are just associated with basketball, whether you are a part of it or not, you're interested in these summer league games because you are looking for talent. What's your perception of summer league?
Well, I think it's an opportunity as a player. You never know what can happen, who will see you play. So every time you step on the floor, it's really an audition. You know, you go out there and you do all the little things. You show them that you're engaged. You show them your talent. You show them you're a good teammate. And you never know how much value that's going to create on the other end. But I do know that, you know, these players take it very seriously. And some of them now, they're at the point where we want to win the whole summer league. So they take it up to another notch.
I like what I saw between Tatum and Fultz. And so I'll ask you this, Tom. Do you think in any way this helps them as they get ready to play in the league?
For sure. Micro steps. If they can piece these together, look, it's been one game. But they're going to go to Las Vegas, and it'll be on ESPN, and we'll see it game and night in and night out. And if they stack together this sort of alpha performance where they're clearly one of the best players on the court every night and performing under, you know, summer league pressure, but it's still pressure. And these are uncomfortable circumstances, you know, Tony. You get thrown together as a group with a new coaching staff, and you travel to Utah, then you're going to go to Vegas. It's challenging to perform. There's a bunch of hungry guys that are getting after you as well. The level of talent is strong. So I think this does matter. It just gets the ball rolling in the right direction. That's the key for these star players, to get on a trajectory where they're going to have an impact and they're going to matter.
All right, so Antonio, who are you impressed by so far? Small sample size in the pro level because it's just obviously summer league, but anybody you impressed by so far?
You know,
watching in college?
And just watching Tatum, it was all the different ways that he can score the basketball. I mean, this kid put it on the floor. He knocked down the 3-ball. As Katie said, that hezzy was off the chain. There were so many different things. You know, you saw him posting up and playing with just such confidence. That will give Boston another weapon, because both of them, you know, whether it's Jaylen Brown on one side and Tatum on the other, you know, now you have Isaiah who can get to the basket and do so many different things. They can keep the floor spread, and if you happen to move the ball, then these guys can make that next pass, or they can make that next play. So I love what he did there, and I think it was a great pick. I was a little skeptical at first, but now I see it if he continues to do this.
All right, the Summer League we shall be watching. You mentioned Vegas for us, Tom Penn. I appreciate it. Tom Penn, Antonio Davis joining us now on SportsCenter Coast to Coast. I'm going to send it back to David, who apparently has some breaking news.
Yeah, how about this? The Sacramento Kings making a bit of a splash here on the 4th of July. They have just signed George Hill to a 3-year, $57 million deal. We know the Lakers have been interested in George Hill, and I just got said in my ear, Zach Randolph also to the Kings.
Wow.
What do we make? Just first blush, George Hill and Zach Randolph going to Sacramento.
Well, the Kings have been devoid of NBA talent. They trade away DeMarcus Cousins. They've got $50 million in cap room roughly to spend. And the real question for them is, could they get anybody to come? Because they could get in this scenario where they make offers, restricted free agent offers like to Otto Porter.
Right.
But here in this particular case, they go to 2 proven players and get them. So at least they have George Hill as a rock to build around. Nice payday for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you add Zebo at the end of his run to at least be a dependable, play every night sort of big. And their real future, though, is in their youth and in developing something to be excited about going forward.
Yeah, but I think this is just, you know, key moves now, because once again, if nobody wants to come there, then it really doesn't matter. They have to start at the bottom and build a foundation now. Now that they don't have DeMarcus Cousins, which I think was the big holdup, now they can start laying this foundation of, okay, let's get some solid veterans in. Let's get some young guys in, get a good mixture going. We'll continue to add pieces and see if we can be competitive. I don't know how competitive they'll be this year, but at least they have some young pieces. They did well in the draft. They have a couple vets now. Now they can start building.
You know, they're going to have to spend up to the league minimum. So the cap is at about $100 million, $99 million. every team has to spend at least 90% of that. So they're going to have to give $90 million roughly to somebody.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, you get a core guy like George Hill, who's high character, who's willing to go there and help build that for the future. It's a nice addition because it's hard to get a player like Hill to go to a place that's in a build mode as opposed to go chase the playoffs, enjoy yourself, have a satisfactory next 3 years. Well, that $57 million will help make it more satisfactory, I guess.
Exactly.
But there's no question they're going to take a pounding in the Western Conference.
Same thing with Zach. You would think he would want to go somewhere too, and try to be in a winning situation. But I think veterans now are starting to realize that there's a lot of value. You can sit back at the end of that bench.
There's a lot of value in money, I think, is what we're finding out here.
And not just 1 or 2 years now. These guys can sit there for a while, help these guys. We saw Kevin Garnett do it in Minnesota. Yeah. You can help stick around, and they'll pay you a little bit more as you go. But I think there's tremendous value of having those two guys on your team.
What does this mean for the Otto Porter deal? Does it mean anything?
Is it still possible?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, it's still possible, I would think. I don't have the... Can we go over to the cap machine and figure it out? But my mental cap machine in my head, I think they'd still have enough to make that maximum offer.
Okay.
I would expect it to be accepted. The other thing I had heard was that Otto Porter had multiple suitors, and it wasn't a lock that he was even going to accept the Kings' offer. Maybe he will now because there's some veterans to go with him. I don't know. We'll find that out in short order.
Okay. $100 million, you don't need veterans. You just need to back the truck up to the bank, keep it moving.
The Kings are finding a way to spend a little bit of this money. Again, George Hill and Zach Randolph heading to Sacramento. Tom Penn and Antonio Davis with us today talking us through it. Much more Coast to Coast coming up right after this.